Luke, after watching the tape, what is some of the things you take away?
We need to push the ball more consistently. We did a really good job of that at times, and the times we did that is when we look good. So we made an emphasis at practice today to constantly kind of get that first initial thrust going, from the backcourt. Defense, our defensive activity was also up and down. I was thrilled with some of the segments on the defensive end. We spent a lot of time working on defense so far in training camp. So it was nice to see some of that carrying over to the game. But there was other plays where we just sat back on our heels and let the other team swing the ball wherever they wanted, and possessions like that ended up in them getting whatever shot they wanted. So it was good to be able to show that to the players.
How challenging is that to get that message across that you have to defend on every single possession?
Well, we know that's no one's ever going to defend on every single play.
But a high percentage.
Yeah, I mean and we can keep preaching it, but I think when you can show it and the players can actually see it, what we're talking about, then they buy in even more. I mean, today we had great ball pressure all over the court from everybody in practice. So we're going to continue to challenge them to do it, knowing realistically they're not going to do it 100% of the time, but the goal is to do it more often than not.
How important is it to you to maybe have a better start? I know that first quarter and that third quarter, so you come out of those halves and both kind of slow starts for the offense and defense.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously you kind of set the tone for the rest of the game there, and we weren't, like I said, we weren't doing a good job of pushing the pace is what we had talked about, and a lot of that is also because we're putting a bunch of new stuff, and give the guys credit because they're trying to do what we're asking them to do, but sometimes when that's the case, you forget to just play basketball, and it's always, in my opinion, more important to make the reads and play basketball first, because you want guys out there that have the feel and can see what's going on, and then as in the flow of the game, get to the sets that we're trying to run.
For you, here it is, game 2. Do you want to see some different lineups, some different guys play?
Well, I want to see. We probably won't change the lineups too crazy, because I want to see after the adjustments and what we talk about how guys respond, and then obviously, the further we go and the more games we have to really evaluate our guys, then we'll start changing some lineups more. I'll try to get to a small lineup at the end of the second quarter against Sacramento, and they came out of the timeout with Cousins and Cauley Stein. I told Lou all to come on back, and we had to get another big in there. But I'd like to try a couple different small lineups when the opportunity presents itself.
When you're putting in new stuff, Luke, how do you balance that out in terms of, so they learn the new stuff, but there's a learning curve that has to slow down the flow?
It does. So we try to only add 1 or 2 things a day, and then that day in practice really get some reps running that. And then if we don't feel, we meet as a staff afterwards, and if we don't feel like we have it down yet, then we won't add something new the next day. Or maybe we only add one thing new the next day. But you're right, it's tough because we're not only adding new sets and new plays, but defensively we're adding, pick and roll coverages and side pick and roll coverages and how we want to guard the post. So because of how new, we are as a staff with the players, there's a lot of teaching that's being done, and at the same time we're trying to keep everything moving and flowing. It's a challenge.
How do you prioritize those things? If you can't get to everything, how do you decide what are the most important?
We kind of discuss that as a staff. We'll sit down up in our office, and I'll open it up to the group. Obviously we have a lot to work on today. What's our priority? And we'll kind of start throwing ideas out there, and we'll come up with a list of things, and then we come up with how we want to attack that as far as what drills we want to do. And most of the times we'll have even more stuff written out on the practice plan, and then depending how practice is going, I'll just clip something here or there, get it out of there, and then we'll work on that the next day. But that's normally the routine of how we figure what we need to cover each day priority-wise.
What would be sort of the core priorities, I guess, for camp, all the way to the things that you feel like you have to get done?
Well, I mean, the list is too long to go through, but it's. I mean, for us, we came in with the idea of, look, we won 17 games last year, so let's not take for granted that we know, even basic concepts. Let's build from the ground up, and that means fundamentals of the 2-9 and guarding your man with a no middle stance. All these things, we're drilling them, and most of the guys know this and they know how to defend like that. But we figure, let's just, as long as we cover that stuff, then anytime that we're not doing it throughout the year, it's easy to come back and correct it and challenge the players on it.
What do you like about B-Shaw being on your staff? Why you have him?
Well, he's great because I know how he is with players, being one of the guys that played for him, and I know how he challenges players and the relationships that he had with all of not only all of me and my teammates when we played here, but I talked to Frank Vogel before hiring him, and Frank said the players loved him in Indy. So he's got a way with guys that I thought would be very helpful. And more importantly than that, he's been a head coach before. He's coached for a lot more years than I have. So it's very comforting, knowing I can lean over to somebody that I trust and I've worked with for years and had a relationship for years, and lean on him for advice when I have to make decisions.
Hey, look,
Last
when
question,
you
guys.
look at Brandon Ingram, he goes 0 for 5, but yet he impacts the defensive end. He just missed some looks. What do you tell him after that first game?
Nothing. Brandon's a very confident player. He was excited. A couple of those 3-point shots, he looked like he rushed a little bit, but that's to be expected. What I'm more impressed with is he didn't pout. His head was never down. He stayed aggressive, and like you said, he competed on defense. He got after it, deflections, block shots. He had a couple errors on the weak side team defense, but that's stuff that we'll keep working on. But the great players in this league always find ways to impact the game, no matter how their shots going.